Two Live Crew, As Nasty as They Wanna Be. The album was released in 1989 and caused trouble right away because the lyrics were extremely sexual and very direct. People argued over whether music with words like that should be sold or performed in public. In Florida, police ran sting buys at record shops. A store owner was arrested for selling the album to an adult, and other clerks were charged. Officers even filmed a nightclub show and said performing the same lyrics on stage broke obscenity laws. A federal judge in Florida declared the album legally obscene in 1990. That ruling allowed arrests tied to store sales and the club performance. The group appealed. Higher courts later overturned the obscenity ruling, saying judges must consider expert opinions and broader cultural value, not just local feelings. The result was that the album itself was not illegal. This case shaped how explicit music was handled. Stores leaned harder on placement and age limits, venues tightened show rules, and police attention around explicit performances increased. But it also set a clear line. Explicit lyrics by themselves were not enough to ban a record. In response, the group released Banned in the USA in 1990, which was a direct answer to the crackdown, and it became the first album to carry the now famous black and white parental advisory sticker. NWA, Straight Outta Compton. Released in 1989, the album became a flashpoint because it showed what life in Compton actually felt like. Constant police stops, gang pressure, and a city treated like a damn war zone. The songs used plain, tough language and street details that most pop music never did. F the Police turned that daily experience into open protest, naming abuse and profiling instead of hiding it. Backlash came quick. Many radio stations refused to play the record, and some big chains wouldn't stock it. Local officials warned promoters that shows could be shut down if the Police song was performed. Police units appeared at concerts, and in several cities the set was cut short when the group did the track. A letter from the FBI to the label raised the temperature higher. It said law enforcement takes exception to the song. The letter didn't ban anything, but it put extra pressure on venues, stations, and retailers to stay away. The public split was clear. Supporters said the album was protest art, rooted in real life, giving voice to communities facing heavy policing and few options. Critics said the lyrics were dangerous and disrespectful to officers. Even with the pushback, edited versions, pulled displays, stricter set lists, the record spread by word of mouth, mixtapes, and non-stop press coverage. The impact was lasting. Straight Outta Compton proved that a rap album could force the country to face street reality and still break through without a court ban. It changed what mainstream rap talked about and how directly it talked about it. Eminem, the Marshall Mathers LP. The album came out in 2000 and set off a large backlash because many songs used violent, hateful language toward women and gay people. Protest groups picketed shows. Some big stores would only carry a clean version. TV and radio used heavy edits or refused to play certain tracks. Eminem said much of the album was a character speaking, not the real person. He used skits and different voices to present that role. Critics argued that character or not, the words were harsh enough to cause harm. Supporters pointed to the writing skill and said shock was part of the art. This argument followed every single and performance. Specific songs drove the heat. Kim staged a murder fantasy against a partner. Kill You, repeated threats and slurs. Criminal included anti-gay lines. The Real Slim Shady targeted public figures by name and pushed the fight into mainstream pop culture. At the Grammys, he performed with Elton John to answer charges of homophobia, which made the debate even larger. Business reactions were direct. Chains stocked edited discs, labels tightened warning labels and review steps. TV added longer broadcast delays to bleep words in live sets. Promoters set rules about which songs could be performed and how. Despite protests, the album sold millions, topped charts, and won major awards. It showed that a record could be heavily condemned and hugely popular at the same time. For hip-hop and pop, it moved the line for shock lyrics in the mainstream and pushed retailers and broadcasters to set firmer limits on what they would carry and air. If you're enjoying this breakdown, I'd love for you to show some support to your brother and hit that like and subscribe button so I can grow the channel and bring you more videos. Tupacalypse Now. Released in 1991, the album drew fast criticism for blunt first-person stories about police abuse, poverty, and street violence. The tone was angry and direct. Soldier's Story and I Don't Give a F describe confrontations with officers and a system stacked against young black men. Brenda's Got a Baby follows a teenage girl with no support, giving the record a serious documentary feel. In 1992, Vice President Dan Quayle said the album has no place in our society. His remark came after a Texas case where a man who killed a state trooper claimed the record influenced him. News programs pulled harsh lines, questioned the label's choices, and turned the release into a national debate. Police groups and some local officials pointed to the album as proof that rap encourages violence. Civil rights advocates, artists, and many critics answered that the music reported real conditions and should be protected as political speech. That split shaped TV coverage, radio decisions, and store placement. No court banned the record. Pressure came from media's attention and retailer caution, and airplay for the most charged songs was limited. The result was lasting. Tupac emerged as a national voice, mixing social critique with street detail, and the album became a key example in arguments over whether art can be blamed for real-world crimes. Ice Cube, Death Certificate. Released in 1991, the album drew instant controversy for blunt, angry writing about race, policing, and daily life in Los Angeles. Cube split it into two halves titled Death Side and Birth Side. Death Side lays out the problems he saw in his community, while Birth Side imagines what change could look like. The tone is direct and confrontational, which pushed the debate far beyond rap audiences. Black Korea became the first major trigger. The song attacked Korean-owned corner shops in black neighborhoods and used threatening lines many heard as calls to violence. Community groups and Asian American leaders condemned it. Cube later met with local activists and said he understood their concerns, but the track kept drawing fire throughout the rollout. No Vaseline targeted his former group, NWA, and their manager Jerry Heller with insults that included anti-Jewish slurs. Critics said the language crossed into open prejudice. Supporters framed it as a personal diss in a bitter split. The mixed reaction increased pressure on retailers and radio programmers deciding how to handle the album. National media amplified the storm. A leading music editor urged chains to stop selling the record. Some major stores pulled it or moved it away from front-of-store displays. Local officials in several cities spoke against the release. After the Rodney King verdict in April 1992, many listeners returned to Death Certificate as a harsh snapshot out of a city on edge. There was no formal ban. The fight played out through store decisions, radio choices, and public statements. Even so, the album reached a wide audience on the strength of its production and focused singles. Its lasting impact was to mark how far political anger and racial argument could go on a major label rap album, and how quickly lyrics can feed real-world tension when a city is close to breaking. Public Enemy, Fear of a Black Planet. Released in 1990, the album put Public Enemy's hard politics in the spotlight. It followed months of headlines about Professor Griff's anti-Semitic remarks in 1989, which put the group under a microscope before the record even dropped. Welcome to the Terror Dome was the first spark. Some listeners and community groups said lines in the song were anti-Semitic and complaints spread in national media. At the same time, Fight the Power, used in Do the Right Thing, became a major anthem and kept attention on the group's message. Other tracks drew heat for different reasons. 911 is a joke, slammed slow emergency response in black neighborhoods and sparked debate about public services. Meet the G That Killed Me included ideas about AIDS that many called harmful and misleading. With pressure from multiple directions, radio and TV made careful choices about what to air, and some stores adjusted how they carried the album. There was no successful legal action against the record. The fight happened in public, statements from advocacy groups, editorials, interviews, and heavy debate. Despite this, the album sold well and became widely studied because it showed how a rap release could argue directly with the news of the day. Snoop Doggy Dogg, Doggy Style. The album came out in late 1993 and faced instant pushback for explicit language, sex themes, and violent stories. It arrived while Snoop was under a widely reported murder charge, connected to a 1993 shooting, which kept cameras on him and turned the release into a national talking point, although he was later acquitted. Large chains debated how to stock the record. Some stores limited placement or carried edited versions only. Certain TV channels trimmed videos heavily. Local officials and parent groups complained about the lyrics and artwork tone, arguing it was not suitable for teens. The album still debuted at #1 and sold fast, which made the public fight even louder. Live promotion was careful. Security and insurance costs went up. Promoters set tighter rules for sets. Media interviews repeatedly returned to the same two questions: whether the lyrics encourage harm and whether a star facing a serious court case should be the face of mainstream rap. There was no ban that stopped Doggy Style nationwide. The heat came from retailer choices, broadcast edits, and constant news coverage around the case. The record's success under pressure showed how 90s gangster rap could be both condemned and dominant at the same time, and it pushed labels to expand warning labels, edited versions, and stricter release plans for high-risk albums. Dr. Dre, The Chronic. The album was released in 1992 and quickly drew heat for harsh language, stories of street violence, and repeated insults aimed at rivals. The sound was smooth and catchy, which made the tough content reach a very wide audience. Some parent groups and local officials complained that the record glamorized crime and mistreated women. Big chains debated how to stock it and leaned on edited versions. Specific moments added fuel. Dre Day mocked former partners and set off a long public feud that spilled into videos, radio, and live shows. Bitches Ain't Shit sparked anger over how women were described. The album artwork's marijuana leaf and open talk about weed bothered some retailers in an era when that was still a strong taboo. The controversy around the death row camp also touched this album. Headlines linked the music to real fights between artists and crews. Snoop Dogg's legal troubles the next year kept attention on the circle that The Chronic launched into the mainstream. There was no court ban on the record. The pressure came through store decisions, heavy edits, and non-stop media focus. Even under that pressure, the album sold in huge numbers. It set the template for major label rap that sounds bright and fun while delivering very hard content, and it locked in a debate about where storytelling ends and promotion of harm begins. Nas, Untitled. In early 2008, Nas announced an album called Ninja. The title alone set off a national fight. TV hosts, politicians, activists, and parent groups argued over whether saying the word in public, even to challenge it, did more harm than good. Major retailers warned they would not carry a record with that title. The label pushed back. Under this pressure, Nas released the album as Untitled. The rollout kept the focus on race, media, and power. Cover art and promo images referenced slavery and branding, signaling that the record was about the history behind the word. Interviews stayed on the same point. Is reclaiming a slur useful, or does repeating it make things worse? The argument followed every step of the campaign. Nas eventually renamed the album Untitled as a result. Songs targeted the media and language directly. Sly Fox attacked cable news. Hero framed the project as a stand for free speech. Tracks like Ninja tried to flip the term by placing it in a wider story about America, control, and identity. Supporters said the record forced a real conversation. Critics said the strategy was risky and confusing for the public. There was no court case against the album. The pressure came from store policies, label risk, and non-stop media heat. The final product still sold well and entered high on the charts. The main outcome was clear. A major artist pushed a taboo into the center of rap, and the business side, retailers and labels, set limits on how far a title could go. Chief Keef, Finally Rich. Released in December 2012, Finally Rich pushed Chicago drill, cold beats, blunt hooks, and street reports into the mainstream. Chief Keef was 17 when it dropped. The breakout singles I Don't Like and Love Sosa carried simple, forceful chants that spread from YouTube to radio. Context around Keef heightened the controversy. He spent parts of 2012 on house arrest at his grandmother's home for juvenile cases, and media coverage tied legal trouble to the album's rise. His songs and online posts also helped normalize drill's harshest trend, dissing deceased rivals, which critics said deepened real-world tensions. Supporters argued the music documented an existing cycle of violence rather than creating it. A major inflection point was Kanye West's I Don't Like remix, which vaulted the track from a regional hit to national rotation and amplified debate about platforming drill. Venue cancellations and police scrutiny followed in several cities, and radio applied heavy edits. Some retailers limited placement of the explicit version. Even with all that pressure, the album charted high and built a durable fan base. Its impact is visible in a wave of artists who cite Keef's cadences, ad-libs, and skeletal beat choices as a template. The controversy persists around the content and its effects, but Finally Rich stands as the record that made drill a central topic in American rap. I know y'all gonna give me some stick for missing out an album or two. Hit me up in the comments and let me know. Thank you for hanging around till the end. I greatly appreciate it. Remember to hit that subscribe button to show some love. Peace out.